Hi, Tashidale. I hope you're doing well. And we are trying to understand the importance of loving kindness and compassion, which is the main antidote to being attached to the nirvana, the peaceful state of mind. And as I mentioned some days back, that it is totally okay to free yourself from the suffering of samsara and the cause of suffering of samsara, and enjoy the permanent, the blissfulness state of mind. But then the issue is, if you remain in that kind of peaceful state of mind for a very long time, then that is not helping a lot. That is not benefiting many beings. So it is more or less like in a inactive mode. So we don't want to remain as inactive mode. We want to benefit as many sentient beings as possible by attending this blissful or state of mind of nirvana. So because of that reason, GAMPOPA encourage us not to just rest in that peaceful state of mind for forever, but then try to develop kind and concern for others. Just like you don't want to suffer, so do other beings. Just like you want to be happy, so do other beings. So because of that reason, you and all other sentient beings shares the equal kind of wish to be happy and free from suffering of samsara. And that is one of the main reasons that we need to generate loving kindness and compassion for the benefit of others as well. So when you are able to practice this, it will bring a lots of joyfulness within yourself, because then you are being, you're sharing whatever you have realized. You are sharing your realizations for the benefit of others. You are teaching them the cause of happiness, and so that the sentient beings can implement those causes of happiness, and they too will able to see or experience the result of permanent happiness. Likewise, you can teach them the cause of suffering, and then to enlighten them and clear their illusion and ignorance. And then by that doing so, they will be able to see the cause of suffering, and then they can also slowly, by understanding the method how to eliminate those causes, then they can also slowly be free from the suffering of samsara. So this is how you can benefit so many beings, just by sharing your knowledge, just by sharing your wisdom. And this is why GAMPOPA encourage us not to just rest in the peaceful state of mind of nirvana, but at the same time, benefit all other sentient beings. So therefore, we're trying to understand and trying to meditate on generating loving kindness and compassion. So yesterday we talked about importance of loving kindness, why we need to generate loving kindness, how many different types of loving kindness are there, what are the primary characteristic of each of these classifications, and what are the object of your practicing of loving kindness, and how can one practice loving kindness, or the method of practicing loving kindness, and measuring your practice, and then finally the beneficial effects or the qualities of developing loving kindness. So today we'll be try to understand compassion. So loving kindness is the genuine wish to see all other beings happy and have the cause of happiness, whereas compassion is genuine wish to see all sentient beings free from suffering and the cause of suffering. So the compassion is not only, just to feel pity of others' suffering or weakness or unsuccessfulness, but then not only that, you go more deeper than that, and that is to say that you can really feel the suffering of other beings, and then you really want to, relieve their pain by actually, helping them, being practical, not only making an aspirations or making wish, but then you are also, applying all those cause and conditions, making all those cause and conditions possible for other beings, so that they can really, eliminate their suffering. They can really feel, free themselves from the suffering of samsara and the cause of some suffering. So this is how genuine compassion is. And this kind of compassion is not limited. It should not be limited. You should not have compassion for just for your beloved and near ones or dear ones, but then this kind of compassion should expand towards all sentient beings. Why? Because you remember the method how we generated loving kindness. We generated loving kindness by taking your mother as example and recollecting all the kindness of your mother or any individual that who has been so kind and helpful to you, and then recollecting their kindness, and then by able to do something back to them for the benefit of them. So likewise, slowly after that generations of recollections of kindness, then you can think that all other sentient beings also had been our mothers in very many different lifetimes. So because of that reason, when they had been your mother, they have also did their best to support you. They went through so many different kind of difficulties in order to raise you, just like the present mother did for you. So all of the sentient beings did the same thing for you. So because of that reason, you're able to expand your loving kindness for all sentient beings, right? So because of that reason, you want to see all sentient beings happy and have the cause of happiness. Likewise here, your compassion should also be expanded to all sentient beings, thinking that all those mother sentient beings who had they in their different lifetimes, in my different lifetimes, they had been they had been my mother, and they had went through so many difficulties, and they had enormous compassion and for us, just like the present mother had for us. So likewise, you can expand that kind of compassion towards all sentient beings. That is why the true compassion means not only feeling another's pain, but also being moved to help relieve suffering of others. This is what it meant by compassion. So before we continue compassion, there's a small short story about Buddha's previous lifetime when he practiced loving kindness. So remember yesterday we heard about the story of Buddha's in his previous lifetime being Brahmin Mahadatta and practicing loving kindness and benefiting himself and his parents, his community, and all the people of his kingdom. Likewise, today's story tells you about in Buddha's previous lifetime, while he was being a king named Bala Maitreya, so he was able to help other beings by practicing loving kindness. So the story goes like this. So Buddha was staying in Sharasti, meditating under the tree, and then Ananda was always there attending Buddha. So Ananda was wondering while Buddha was meditating. Ananda was wondering. This thought came into Ananda's mind, thinking that, oh, what are the causes for these 5 main disciple of Buddha, and that they became the 5 main disciples in this lifetime, and they attend Buddha and they were able to receive the teachings of the Buddha, and slowly by applying those instructions, they were able to achieve or attain arhatship, the realizations of nirvana. So then he was wondering what may be the cause for this. Then he slowly asked Buddha, my Lord Buddha, I was wondering what are the causes for this your 5 main disciples, Kuntayana, Katayana, and Kuntinaya, etc. Then Buddha said, not only I have helped these 5 disciples in this lifetime by sharing my Dharma, and because of that they were able to free from suffering of samsara, and they were able to attain nirvana. Not only this lifetime, but also in their previous lifetime, I have also helped them. And so that this is how the story begins. And how did you help them? So Ananda asked, and Buddha replied, I had provided them food and drinks. And what were those food and drinks? And because unfortunately in this previous lifetime, these 5 main disciples were, 5 yakshas who sustains of the humans' blood and flesh. So Buddha fed them, all 5 of them, with his own blood and flesh, and satisfied them. So this came about through the power of aspiration. After that, feeding those 5 yakshas, then Buddha did aspiration. Buddha did aspiration that this, when I attain enlightenment, may I establish them into the state of ultimate peace. So this was the aspiration that Buddha made after practicing that kind of generosity. So then Ananda wants to know more about this story. So Ananda again requested Buddha, can you please tell this in more detail? So Buddha says, okay. So Buddha told these following stories. So Buddha said, limited kalpas ago in Jambudeva, there was this king called Bala Maitreya, who ruled 84,000 different kingdoms. And then the nature of the king was very compassionate, loving and compassionate. He was so, concerned for others' well-being. So since he was the leader of that kingdom, as being a king, so he has all this power. So he preached all this, good cause for happiness and permanent pleasure. So he taught them all these 10 virtues. So because of that reason, all of the citizens of his kingdom, were practicing 10 virtues, and then they were so happy and harmony. No quarreling or fighting, anything like that were taking place. No robbery, no stealing, no killing, nothing like that. So because of that reason, even it is very hard to hear the words like robber or enemy or butchers, etc. So it was so peaceful that because of that, his good leadership, his good virtuous leadership. So people enjoyed peace and happiness and all types of glorious wealth and good harvest because of taking care of each other. They were helpful to each other. They were not jealous at all. They do not compete each other. So if anyone needs help, they are ready to give their help, and they're very generous. So that any people are having kind of difficulties, all others go there and help them, support them. So that's why, because of that reason, no hatred, no jealousy, no ill will. Everything was so perfect in that kingdom. And because of that reason, there were less, no fighting at all, less sickness, no big epidemic were taking place. And it was so peaceful and harmonious state. So the king Bala Maitreya was a very good ruler. He ruled the country according to 10 virtues. And his citizens also applied those, remedies, applied those instructions fully, completely, and with diligently and with happily. And because of that reason, they can see the results of that. But unfortunately, next to their kingdom, there were these 5 yakshas who lived on and eagerly enjoyed others' blood and flesh. So they sustained, their living by taking humans' blood and flesh. But then they tried to come into this kingdom, finding food. But here, none of their wishes could be accomplished. So they were very hungry and thirsty. The suffering suffering from the lack of causing harm to others. So they approached to the king Bala Maitreya because they thought that they heard about him, and then they were going under very hardship, not finding any food for them. So they went to see the this king Bala Maitreya, and then they told the king that we sustain our lives by eating flesh and drinking the blood of human beings, but through the power of your rules of virtue, by all the the people of your country abide this virtuous act, and we do not have any opportunity to harm anyone, and that's why they are suffering. That's why they are feeling hardship to find their food. So therefore they complained and they request, and they told the king, we are starving with thirst and hunger. Don't you have any compassion or kindness towards us? And because of after hearing this, the king Balamitra was moved, and he was very sad. Oh, there are people who dependent on humans, other individual humans, flesh and blood by karma. As a result of karma, there are some individual which he never heard about, So there are some individual who really depend on others' flesh and blood. So he was very sad to hear this story, and then he give rise to generate loving kindness for them. And then he said, okay, I will give you my flesh and blood from my own body, because I can't take any others flesh and blood from others, any individuals, because I have so much care and concern and loving kindness for them. So the only thing I can serve you, I can protect you from losing your life, is that I can offer you my own flesh and blood. So then Buddha, at that time, King Balamitra tried to cut his hand and legs and slowly fed his blood to them. And then slowly they were all satisfied. So after having that, being satisfied by blood or flesh and some flesh and blood of Buddha, so Buddha gave them a teaching. You yakshas, from now on, you must always engage in virtuous actions, because what you are suffering now is because of the results of your unvirtuous act in the past. So in order to not to suffer this kind of thing in the future, then you need to apply the good cause. That is the not harming of others and respecting our others' life. And then Buddha also made another aspiration. This time I gave them my blood from my body and dispelled the suffering of their hunger and thirst. By this powerful merit, may I establish them in the moral ethic, meditative concentration, and wisdom awareness when I achieve enlightenment. So this was the aspirations that Buddha made. So any aspirations, when you make any aspirations with genuine heart, with genuine thought, with pure motivation, then it always works. That's why at that time, after satisfying all these five yakshas with his own flesh and blood, Buddha made these aspirations. And because of that power of those aspirations, all these five yakshas in this lifetime, in Buddha's lifetime, they became his first followers, or the first five disciples. And he made another aspiration. Through that, may their sufferings be ended and may they attain the unsurpassable state of nirvana. So these are the two aspirations that King Balamitra made after satisfying five yakshas by feeding them his own flesh and blood. So that's the end of the story. And then Buddha told Ananda, I myself am the former king Balamitra. So Buddha told him that he was the king, former king and Balamitra in his different lifetime, accomplishing cultivations of loving kindness. The five yakshas are now my first disciples, Kundayana, Katayana, and so forth. By the power of that aspiration, they received my first teaching in Varanasi and had the opportunity to see the ultimate truths just by receiving those teachings and implementing those teachings. Therefore, now they attained ultimate nirvana. So this is the short story about King Balamitra in Buddha's previous lifetime, who was practicing loving kindness. And this story tells us that loving kindness also helps other sentient beings, not only yourself, but also helps other sentient beings. So this is the story, and today we are going to understand more about compassion. So before we do so, we'll make aspirations, ravish prayer, and generations of bodhicitta. Sangye Jodan Zogye Jonam La Jangjo Bardo Dane Gyab Sonche Dagye Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Benje Sangye Dobarasho Sangye Jodan Zogye Jonam La Jangjo Bardo Dane Gyab Sonche Dagye Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Benje Sangye Dobarasho Sangye Jodan Zogye Jonam La Changjo Bardo Dane Gyab Sonche Dagye Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Benje Sangye Dobarasho Sangye Jodan Zogye Jonam La Changjo Bardo Dane Gyab Sonche Dagi Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Benje Sangye Dobarasho Zemje Damje Dewa Dan Dewe Gyodan Dembara Gyoje Dunga Dan Dunga Ge Gyodan Dawa Gyoje Dunga Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Dawa Gyoje Yiren Jadan Yedan Doye Dan Yon Jembo La Nebara Gyoje Zemje Damje Dewa Dan Dewe Gyodan Dembara Gyoje Dunga Dan Dunga Ge Gyodan Dawa Gyoje Dunga Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Dawa Gyoje Yiren Jadan Yedan Doye Dan Yon Jembo La Nebara Gyoje Omin Chuge Yenge Potan Na Dusum Sange Gwenye Mo Nye Rasim Chokuro Ngunsum Denzeba Zaye Lame Shalai Gwenja. So compassion in Sanskritam is karuna, a genuine wish to see other beings free from suffering and the cause of suffering. And this both loving kindness and compassion is very, very necessary at this time, especially in this time when there's a health crisis is taking place and economic crisis are taking place. People are hopeless and none of the scientists and doctors are being able to make any antidotes or medications for this pandemic. So because of that reason, there are lots of anger and hatred are spreading all over the world. And people are trying to blame each other and making all these different types of bad comments. So people are giving rise to lots of negative thoughts, hatred and ill will, jealousy, and so forth. So this is very unfortunate, and this is the right moment to practice your loving kindness and compassion, because up until now we have been quite fortunate that we have not witnessed or encountered anything like this. So we have enough food, clothing, shelter, we have enough medications and education so far, except some countries, unfortunately. But this time, because of this pandemic, it has moved the whole world. It spread so fast, and the worst thing is it is invisible. It's very hard for us to protect from this pandemic. We don't know who's carrying this pandemic since it is invisible. So because of that reason, it is very hard and it's very unfortunate. And while you face this kind of situation, as a Buddhist, what you need to do is you need to recall the Buddha's teaching, the first teachings of the Noble Truth, Four Noble Truth, the truth of suffering. Up to now, we heard suffering from his teachings in the book, but we have not really encountered such different type of suffering, such enormous type of suffering, such a very, worrisome and very hopeless. So when you face this, then you have to apply the antidote. Then you have to remember the words of the Buddha, and then you have to be even more, practice even more strongly. You need to practice loving kindness and compassion even more strongly. And because this may be our collective karma, because whole world is experiencing these difficulties and suffering. So because of that reason, we need to, instead of blaming each other, instead of giving, hateful speech, instead of, pointing out to each other, which will only bring, more hatred, more jealousy, more kind of retaliation of spirit. So that's not healthy at all. It's not healthy from the scientific point of view. It's not healthy from the dharmic point of view as well. So what we can really do is that help as much as possible. Make a wish, like pray, aspirations, and wish that all these people can free from this pandemic as soon as possible and the cause of this suffering. And may the scientists and the great doctors or great nations find the solution for this pandemic, antidote for this pandemic. So this is one you can make a genuine aspiration, aspiration that is not artificial, that is felt within your bottom of your heart, not to show towards anyone else, but within, give rise that kind of aspirations within the bottom of your heart. That's one good thing we can do. Second thing is that we can help, not only saying, but we can actually engage in helping others in whatever capacity we have, in whatever we can, just by giving food to those people who are, suffering from hunger and thirst. We can give shelter, we can give clothing, we can give medicines, we can give masks, sanitizers, and also we can give them instructions on health and hygiene. All this, with your own capacity, all these good things that you can share to others, be nice to others, and be responsible for others. Because if you've been arrogant, if you be self-centered, it doesn't work at all. Because this pandemic, can come to us in any time. They don't look gender, color, skin, whatsoever. So because of that reason, one individual matters the whole world. So we can recollect the teachings of interdependence. So how we depend upon each other, how one individual can can affect the whole world, the whole surrounding, the whole family. So this really gives us an opportunity to think the nature of interdependence, nature, a nature of suffering, nature of change, because this is something that we have never thought about it. So we always thought that things can be always same. We have same routine, same good parties, same good family picnics, same good shopping, going to shopping, same good office hours and all. But this hit us that nothing is permanent, everything changes according to cause and conditions. So this is also another good opportunity for us to remember impermanence nature as well. And not only that, this pandemic taught us, how to be mindful with whatever you are touching, eating, what kind of diet you should have, all health and hygiene issues are related, which can, it gave us how we can be mindful of things. And it also gave us an opportunity that things that we value so much, things that we are attached so much, even though they are not with us, we can still survive, isn't it? We are now locked down for like almost 2.5 months now, but we still can survive. All those hustles and puzzles of our life, all those business that we used to engage with. Sometimes we now think that were those necessary actually? Going party and making friends, parties, all those different types of things, were they necessary? And because of all those involvement in external value, we forgot the internal value. We compete with each other. We have give rise to jealousy of others' belongings. We have give rise to anger and aversion. We have give rise to attachment and desire and craving of things. All these faculties, the object of sense faculties, beautiful color, shape, sound, smell, taste, texture. We have given so much value and importance of these different external phenomena. And because of that, being involved in that business, hustles and puzzles of your life, you have forgotten your inner value, the value of compassion, the value of loving kindness, the value of patience, the value of forgiveness, the value of encouragement, the value of rejoicement. So this is good actually opportunity for us to sit down, relax, sit down, slow down, and look within ourselves. What kind of person we are, what kind of afflicting emotions we have, then apply antidote to them. So this is very good opportunity. And for others who are suffering, again, without knowing this real fact, that things are impermanent and things can change and things will not last forever and anything can happen anytime. So, we can teach them, those people who are still holding things like permanence, things like real, things they think that nothing can happen to them. So we can teach them those, share them those beautiful wisdoms. And one of these is trying to teach them the importance of compassion. So we're going to try us understand compassion more here. Compassion. When loving kindness is perfected in this way, the practice of compassion is not difficult. So as we studied of loving kindness, the method of how to generate loving kindness. So if you have that kind of technique with you, then it is not hard for you to cultivate kindness. So GAMPOPA gives here another 6 topics to understand compassion. So these 6 topics comprises the study and practice of compassion. So what are those? The presentations are in same manner as loving kindness. Classifications of compassion, object of compassion, a method of practice of compassion, identifying characteristic of those compassions, method of practice of compassion, measure of the practice, and finally the beneficial effects of compassion. So this 6 topic comprises the study and practice of the immeasurable compassion. So the first topic, classification. There are 3 types of compassion. Compassion with sentient beings as its object, number 1. Number 2, compassion with phenomena as its object. And finally, number 3, non-objectified compassion. So just like we have 3 different types of loving kindness, so is with 3 different types of compassion, loving kindness and compassion. So there are 3 classifications of compassion as well. So to understand them more, the first of these, the compassion with sentient beings as its object, what does that mean? That means that to develop compassion by seeing the suffering of sentient beings, especially in the lower realms. So compassion is actually wanting to see the sentient beings free from suffering and cause of suffering, right? Not only seeing, but wanting to do something so that they can be relieved from this suffering. So that's why here it says sentient beings, all sentient beings in lower realms, hell, hungry ghosts, and animal realms. So when you see, like, remember the different types of suffering of the lower realms. So when you hear and see these different types of suffering of these 3 lower realms, then you can really feel, compassion. You can really feel genuine wish to help them so that they can free from the suffering, and also teach them the cause of those suffering, and then tell them to eliminate those causes so that they will not suffer again. So that's why it is meant as compassion with sentient beings as its object. The second thing is compassion as phenomena as its object. What does that mean? That means that when one is well trained in the practice of the 4 Noble Truths, and one understands the cause and result, and one has dispelled holding permanence and solidity. So if when you practice Dharma, what happens that when it will and the development of your realization, so you can slowly understand the 4 Noble Truth. And when you understand 4 Noble Truth, that means you understand the cause and effect, karma, cause and result, because 4 Noble Truth talks about karma and its result, karma, cause and result. So the first Noble Truth, truth of suffering, is the result, and truth of cause of suffering is the cause. So if you want to free from the suffering as a result, then you need to eliminate the cause, that is the negative applications and emotions. So you understand both cause and effect. Likewise, if you want to experience the cessation of suffering, that's the truth of cessation of suffering, you need to apply the truth of path, that is the real cause for that cessation of suffering. So when you truly understand 4 Noble Truths, then you truly understand the karma and result. How does karma and result work? So if you want to experience good result, you should involve in good cause. So if you want to free from the bad experience of suffering, then you should eliminate the cause of that bad experience of suffering. So this is what it meant by understanding the Four Noble Truths. And then slowly, when you develop your understanding of the karma and its effect, then you can slowly release yourself from the idea of permanence or real, or and this is how you can release your attachment towards things. Then you can really see nothing, nothing is permanent. Everything has a cause and result. Everything has cause, so it can change. So therefore, because of cause and condition, everything can change. Nothing remains forever. And because of that understanding, you're also understanding karma, cause and effect is also understanding the impermanence nature. Obviously, it is understanding of the suffering nature, but also it is the understanding of impermanence nature. Because remember, we spoke about all the suffering of the different realms are not permanent and are not without cause. That's wonderful. If they are without cause, and then if someone has to suffer all the time permanently for so many kalpas, then it is very unfortunate. It's very sorrowful. It's very big, disappointment. But it's not that. There is a cause. So if you want to eliminate that cause, you don't need to suffer as a result. So it's not permanent. It's impermanence. So that's why it's good. So once you realize that kind of realization, then you see those individuals who do not realize this truth, who are still holding things as permanence and real, who are still being so attached to this life's activity and the pleasure of samsara. Then you can develop this kind of compassion. Oh, how wonderful if these sentient beings can see that truth of change, truth of suffering. And then because of that reason, when other beings are under ignorance of not knowing the true nature of impermanence and suffering, then you really want to share them the knowledge. You really want to clear their ignorance, dispel their ignorance. So this is how you develop compassion within yourself. And that is what it means, that all phenomena, not only sentient beings, but all phenomena, like the impermanence nature of anything, like house, clothes, cup, book, anything you have, your possessions, wealth, everything is impermanence. Everything can change. So for those individuals who do not know this reality, you want to really share them, and you want to really relieve their confusion state of mind. And the third type of compassion is the non-objectified compassion, and this is the greatest realizations of compassion. And what does that mean? That means that one is established in equipoise, and then when one realizes all phenomena as nature of emptiness, compassion arises, especially to those individuals who do not know the emptiness nature, who still thinks that things are permanent, things to really exist as it appears. So this is how you develop your compassion. First, taking lower sentient beings in the lower realm as the object, slowly taking all, expanding more, so you can see your realization is getting better, more advanced. So later on you can see all phenomena, take them as your object of compassion. And then slowly, after realizations of emptiness, then you can naturally feel compassion towards all beings who do not realize this emptiness nature of things, the ultimate truth. So these are the three different types of compassion. So if you practice these instructions, then you will be able to experience these different types of compassion as well. You can be able to generate these different types of compassion. Bodhisattvas who maintain the state of equipoise and develop the power of the perfections of the practice of impermanence develops compassion, especially towards those who are grasped by demons of holding all things as real. So this is a quote. Of these three different types of compassion, we will meditate on the first one, because we are now beginning into the path of Mahayana, and then we need to generate compassion. It's a step one by one. So we can't just really practice impermanence or emptiness right away. So we need to first think that there are sentient beings, even though their nature is emptiness, but still you have to make from the relative point of view, relative truth. We still consider us as they are beings in these three lower realms who are suffering, and then slowly generate your compassion towards them, because you are now beginner. We cannot see them as the emptiness nature. We cannot right away see them as the impermanence nature. So we have to, go step by step, progress our practice in the Dharma. So therefore, GAMPOPA says first we need to meditate on the first one. And the second point or the topic is the object. So here, all sentient beings are the object of your compassion, especially beings in three lower realms. Third topic is identifying the characteristic. So what is compassion? So the compassion is a mind that wants all sentient beings to separate from suffering and its cause. This is the primary characteristic, or identifying the characteristics of all of these different types of compassion, especially the first compassion. And the fourth topic is how to meditate, or what is the method of practicing compassion. So we are going to understand this more. Method of practice. We join this practice through our feelings for this life's mother. So remember, just like we did with the method of practicing loving kindness. So here also we take your mother as an example, and you see if your mother is in a painful state of mind, if your mother is in the state of hunger and thirst, if your mother is in the state of suffering from heat and cold, if your mother is enslaved by other beings or tortured by other beings, what would you do? You definitely generate compassion for your mother. Likewise, you do the same with all other individuals in different realms, like all those beings in hell realm, for example. You generate compassion for them, seeing them as your own mother. Because remember, same idea, all sentient beings have been your own mother, because we have experienced, this cycle of existence for, from the beginningless time. So therefore, we have to expand that compassion towards all sentient beings. So here we do the same thing. So suppose my mother was in a place where someone beat her, cut her into pieces, cooked or burned her in a fire, or suppose she was freezing cold and her body was blistering. So remember all these sufferings of the hell realm. So if your mother also is a state of suffering of similar to hell realm, even though she is in human realm, but she may have some kind of difficulties by beating by others, or by maybe born on fire and so on and so forth. Likewise, or if she is, feeling the sensations of cold, freezing cold, and her body was blistering, what would you do at that time? At that time when you see your mother, I would develop extreme compassion for her, obviously, because she was so kind to you, because you have already practiced the recollecting of the kindness of your mother. And also, when they were your mother, they also had enormous compassion towards you. So therefore, when you see them in that kind of difficulties, you develop enormous compassion at the same time. Likewise, the sentient beings in the hell realm, who are definitely our mothers, are being tortured by this kind of suffering. Why would compassion not arise? So one should meditate on compassion, desire to free such beings in hell realms from suffering and its causes. So this is meditation on the sentient beings of the hell realm, seeing them as your own mother, and seeing their suffering as your own suffering, seeing their suffering as your own mother's suffering, and then you really want to relieve their suffering and the cause of suffering. So likewise, second presentation is with regard to the sentient beings in the hungry ghosts. Also, if my mother was in the place where she suffered from the thirst and hunger and was tortured by sickness, fever, fear, and feeling of helplessness, then I would develop extreme compassion. Obviously, you will do. So likewise, the sentient beings of the hungry ghost realm, who are definitely our mothers, are being tortured by this kind of suffering. Why would compassion not arise? Definitely, compassion will arise. So meditate on the compassionate desire to free such beings from suffering, such beings of the hungry ghost from the suffering and cause of suffering. Also, if my mother was in the place. So this is the meditation related to the beings in the animal realm. If my mother was in the place where she suffered aging and weakness and was enslaved without choice, beaten, killed, cut, and so forth, then I would develop extreme compassion. So if you see your mother in these difficult situations, you would develop enormous or extreme compassion. Likewise, when you see the sentient beings in the animal realms who were definitely our mothers and are suffering from same way, torture or enslaved or cut, then why would compassion not arise? Definitely it will arise. So meditate on the compassionate desire to free such beings of animals in animal realm from their suffering and cause of suffering. So this is how you can develop compassion towards the beings in animal realms. So the next presentation is all those beings in 3 higher realms together, and humans, demigods, and gods. So also, if my mother was near a precipice over which she could fall for 1,000 yonjanas, and she was unaware of these dangers, and no one has showed this to her, or no one has warned to her of this kind of risks. Once she fell into the abyss, she would experience great suffering and be unable to climb out again. Then I would develop extreme compassion. So when you see your mother in this kind of situation where she is almost to fall down, and she didn't know that she's falling down, and no one has shown her, oh, there's a risk of falling down. So once she falls down, it is very hard for her to climb up, right? It's a pitch, edge of the mountain, so to speak. So likewise, all those sentient beings in the 3 higher realms, God, demigod, and human realms, they are also, even though they are enjoying for now, they have this risk of falling down after they, consumed all the good karmas. After their good karma are exhausted, they keep withdrawing their good karma, and they never redeposit or deposit any good karma in this lifetime. Then there's a risk of falling down. And once they fall down into lower realms, it is very hard to climb up. Remember, the lifespan of the lower realm are unthinkable, right? So they have to suffer more. So before that, we should warn them. We should show them the path. We should give them the instructions that, oh, what you are now attached to, pleasure of this lifetime, and pleasure or the pleasure of samsara, and all that you're thinking and giving so much value and cherish so much. You teach them, oh, these are the nature of impermanence, nature of change. So you should not hold, and you should not have so much desire and attachment. If you have so much desire and attachment to it, you will have so much disappointments when things go apart, falls apart, breaks down. If someone takes things away from you, if someone insults you about your figure, body, beauty, possession, wealth, and so on and so forth, you will give rise to anger and aversions, and this is where the samsara begins, and this is where the involvement of the cause of suffering take place. So therefore, it is a very risk. You are at a very risk. So therefore, you should be very mindful. You should have mindful, and you should be aware of all the actions of your body, speech, and mind. So then you can protect yourself from the falling into the 3 lower realms. So here again, likewise, gods, humans, and demigods are near the dangerous precipice of the lower realms. They have no awareness that they should avoid negative actions. They have not met spiritual masters, and once they fall down, it will be very difficult for them to come out of these 3 lower realms. Why would compassion not arise for them? Obviously, you don't want to see them falling down, because you really respect and you really recollected their kindness and compassion towards you. So someone who is so nice to you, someone who has been so kind to you, someone who has so much compassion to you, do you want to see them falling down? No, you don't, right? So therefore, naturally, you need to generate bodhicitta, compassion for them. So you expand this compassion towards all sentient beings of the 6 realms, thinking that they are your mother. So therefore, we call mother sentient beings in Buddhist instructions, Buddhist teaching. So meditate on compassionate desire of freeing such beings from these sufferings of 3 higher realms and cause of suffering. So this is the method how we need to cultivate compassion or develop compassion. So the next topic is measuring of your practice. So to see where your practice reached, where your compassion practice reached. Is your compassion is just only for yourself or your family members or your partners? Is that it? If it is that, then it's not. You have not succeed your compassion. So your compassion is not based on color, gender, and near and dear. Your compassion should be for all sentient beings. Why? Because all sentient beings were your mother. Remember that this kind of technique that GAMPOPA shares here is very beneficial. And by thinking that all sentient beings are your mother, then you would not like to generate ill will for them. You would not like to give rise to hatred and be angry to them, right? So you really respect them, you value their kindness, and then you want to see them happy, free them from suffering of samsara. So this is how you develop your compassion. So here, measuring of your practice. When one has fully purified self-cherishing and is fully released or cut from the chain of self-cherishing, when from the depth of the mind one desires all sentient beings to free from suffering, that is the time when you really when you have this kind of feeling within yourself to want to see all sentient beings free from suffering of samsara and no means of self-center at all, then your compassion has perfected. That's how you perfected your compassion. So this is how you see whether your compassion practice is perfected or is still underway. So this is how you try to see your development of practice of compassion. So the last point is quality of the practice, the beneficial effect of the practice. So here, limitless qualities arise from the practice of this meditation. As there's a quote from Expressions of the Realizations of Genesis, he says, if one had just one quality, it would be as if all the Buddha's Dharma were in your palm. So if you have one quality, it is like having all the Dharma in your palm, all the 84,000 teachings of the Buddha in your palm. And what is that quality? Do you want to guess? It is the compassion. It says here, what quality is it? Or is that? A great compassion, the compassion that expands towards all sentient beings, the compassion that wants to see all sentient beings free from suffering and cause of suffering. This kind of, immeasurable compassion. So when you practice this 4 immeasurable thoughts, compassion, loving kindness, compassion, equality, and joyfulness. So here, when it says immeasurable, that doesn't mean that it doesn't only mean that it is uncountable. Your compassion has no boundary. Your compassion has no limitation. Your compassion, expands equally towards all sentient beings. It breaks all the limitations and it breaks all the boundaries, and that's why it meant immeasurable compassion. Another quote from Accomplishment of the Dharmadhatu Sutra: "Blessed one, wherever the precious well of the great monarch is found, they are all his troops and retinues." This is example. Likewise, blessed one. Likewise, wherever the great compassions of the Bodhisattva is found, there will be all the dharmas of the Buddha. So the essence of the Dharma is compassion. That's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, my religion is compassion, universal truth, universal beneficial, equal for all. If someone practices compassion, a genuine compassion, not the artificial one, a genuine compassion, which is limitless, boundaryless, which do not see any gender, caste, religion, nationalities, then that individual is the holy man, the wise man. Another quote from the showing the secret of the Tathagata Sutra says, Kuyapati, the primordial wisdoms of the omniscience one grows from the root of compassion. So it says that the primordial wisdom of the Buddha grows from compassion. So compassion is the base for attainment of unsurpassable enlightenment, primordial wisdom. Thus, when through loving kindness one wants all beings to achieve happiness, and through compassion one wants all beings be free from suffering, then one is no longer interested in achieving one's own peace and happiness, because he or she has dedicated his or her entire life for the benefit of others. He or she has generated loving kindness and compassion that is immeasurable, boundaryless, limitless, expands all sentient beings. Then one is delighted to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So even though there is a wish to attain Buddhahood, that is not for him or her. The purpose is for all sentient beings, the benefit of all sentient beings. So even though if that practitioner is involved in virtuous act, that doesn't mean that is for himself. That doesn't mean that he is selfish or self-centered. Whatever involvement of his karma is dedicated for the good well-being of others. So therefore, even though one is delighted, so even though one is doing all this, practicing all these methods in order to attain enlightenment, but his or her purpose is for the benefit of others, not for him or herself. This becomes the remedy to the attachment to the pleasure of peace. The meditations on loving kindness and compassion is the remedy to the attachment to the pleasure of peace or nirvana. Therefore, by developing loving kindness and compassion in the mind, one cherishes others more than oneself. See, before that, we cherish ourselves more, right? We don't want to think about others. We don't care about us. We don't want to bother of thinking about others. But now, because of practice of generosity, loving kindness and compassion, obviously, we now think the importance of others. We now value the importance of others. And it is with reason, because it's not stupid practicing loving kindness and compassion. It is with good reason. If I practice compassion, if I practice loving kindness, if I be nice to others, definitely my circumstance, my circulations of people, my associations of people, they will be nice to us too. If you are, living near, you are surrounded by people who are very peaceful, who are always involved in 10 virtues, who do not think of any stealing or killing or lying or uses any divisive speech, who do not holds any kind of ill will or harmful thoughts, that you imagine that kind of society will be like the similar society that we just heard about, the story of King Balametriya. Very peaceful, harmonious. Can you do that? Obviously, we can do it. But how? We should all be responsible of doing this. We should not wait that someone else will do it. So our main weakness is that we always wait that someone should have compassion to me, someone should have loving kindness to me, someone should give me something. So we always depend on the expectations there. So that doesn't work that way. So you need to be the role model. You need to act first. And if you be nice to others, obviously, take this an example. You try to be nice, be compassionate, be concerned for others. Slowly, not right away, but slowly people can understand you. Slowly people will be nice to you. Slowly people will change their attitude towards you. Slowly their confusions, thinking of bad about you, will slowly clarify, pacified. So life will be very pleasant. Therefore, Oh, okay. And there's another last comment, quote from the Lamb of the Path of Enlightenment. By examining the awareness of one's own suffering, one develops a desire to completely free all sentient beings from suffering, and this is called Supreme Being. So someone who thinks of others, someone who can really feel the suffering of others, and someone who really wants to relieve the suffering of others. This is known as the superior being. Thus, one cultivates the mind of supreme beings. This is the 7th chapter dealing with the loving kindness and compassion from the jewel ornament vibration, the wish-fulfilling gem of the noble teachings. So this concludes the teachings on compassion. So we need to practice kindness and compassion. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, practice compassion wherever possible. And he also said, it is always possible. How nice of it. It is always possible. Okay? Don't disappoint yourself. Don't be discouraged by seeing others people's, reactions. It is always possible to practice loving kindness and compassion. Practice loving kindness and compassion, especially now at this time of pandemic. Very useful for yourself, for your peace of mind, and also the well-being of others. Thank you. So we shall dedicate the good merits of listening, teaching, and sharing the Dharma for the benefit of all sentient beings. So nam di tamje zeba nye domne nyebe danam pamje ne gega na che balau chupai sibe zole ndo wan do warai shu.
Today, we should practice meditation and reciting the mantra and aspiration prayers. For that, firstly, we take refuge and generating bodhicitta. Therefore, you visualize that in front of you, the sky, that your Guru, and is surrounded by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Lamas, Idams, protectors. And with our great devotion and faith that we take refuge after them, then we generate bodhicitta. Now we meditate on Tonglen meditation. Tonglen means giving and taking meditation. And this meditation apply with your breathing. First, you visualize that all your mother sentient beings are in front of you. All the sentient beings, what they want is happiness. What they don't want is suffering, but because of the ignorance, they don't know how to obtain the happiness, how to free from the sufferings. Then they are all suffering. Therefore, now we meditate that when you breathe in, we visualize that all the mother sentient beings, they are sufferings like pain, fears, sickness, come out from their body, a form of black smoke, and also cause of the sufferings are their ignorance, attachments, hatred, angers, all come out form of black smoke. To breathe in with your breathing, that's black smoke. Breathe into your body, reach in the heart level. You will have small fire at the heart. Then this fire will burn off all the black smokes. You imagine that all the mother sentient beings are free from the suffering, free from the pain, and free from the cause of the sufferings. Now when you breathe out, then you visualize that from your body that your virtues, your merits, and your love and compassion will come out with like form of white smoke or dissolve into them. You imagine they all receive happiness and the cause of happiness. Imagine they are free from the suffering and the cause of the suffering. They forever stay with the happiness and the cause of happiness. Now we recite all the mantras. First we recite Avalokiteshvara's mantra. Therefore you visualize that place and the body's, your body, speech, mind. It's normal, it's ordinary, we call it impure body, impure environment, impure body, speech, mind. Now we transform this impure environment, impure body, speech, mind, transform into pure. Instantly now you transform, your place is pure land of the Avalokiteshvara. Your body is pure body of the Avalokiteshvara. Your speech is pure speech, that mantra of Mani Padme Hum. Your mind is pure, that is Avalokiteshvara, that wisdom. Then we recite the mantra of Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum mantra is, this mantra is the essence of all the Dharma. With this visualization, your mind is focused on this visualization and recite the mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. You recite this mantra 108 times. Your mind is focused on visualization. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Today we recite long life Buddha's Dharani. Therefore, you visualize that above your head, that long life Buddha, Buddha Amitayu. The Buddha Amitayu is a Sambhoga Kaya form of the Buddha Amitabha. Now from your heart, that radiate light, this light dissolve in the Amitayu's heart. I request Amitayu to give us the blessings through his love and compassion. The radiate light from his body, this light go to all over the place. Then this light will collect all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, body, speech, mind blessings, and also collect the energy of the universe, essence of the 4 elements. They all come and dissolve into his long light vase that he's holding long light vase. Then all the energies, the blessings are transformed into nectar. The nectar overflow from the vase, go into your crown and the body. Your body fill up, to purify all the obscurations, or the obstacle for the long life. Imagine that you have received blessings of all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, all the energy of the universe and essence of elements. Your body is full of energy. The radiating light from your body. With this visualization, they will recite a mantra, this long dharani, and 7 times. Om Namo Bhagavate Aparimita Subhine Jeta Desorajaya Tathagataya Arahat Samya Samambodhaya Teyata Om Bone Bone Mahabone Aparimita Bone Aparimita Bone Jana Sambaro Bhaitite Om Sarava Samkara Parishuddhi Dharamade Gagana Samangade Sobhava Vishuddhi Mahanaya Parivare Soha Om Namo Bhagavate Aparimita Ayurjana Subhine Jeta Desorajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samaya Sambuddhaya Teyata Om Bone Bone Mahabone Aparimita Bone Aparimita Bone Jana Sambaro Bhaitite Om Sarava Samkara Parishuddhi Dharamate Gagana Samangade Sobhava Vishuddhi Mahana Parivare Soha Om Namo Bhagavate Aparimita Ayurjana Subhine Jeta Desorajaya Tathagata Sarava Samkara Parishuddhi Dharmate Gagana Samangati Sobhavati Shuddhi Mahanaya Parivari Soha Om Namo Bhagavate Aparimita Ayujan Subhine Tita Te Zorajaya Tatagataya Arahate Samya Sambuddhaya Te Yata Ampune Pune Mahabune Aparimita Pune Aparimita Pune Jnana Sambharo Vajite Om Sarava Samkara Parishuddhi Dharmate Gagana Samangate Sobhavati Shuddhi Mahanaya Parivari Soha Om Namo Bhagavate Aparimita Ayujan Subhine Cita Te Zorajaya Tatagataya Arahate Samya Sambuddhaya Te Yata Ampune Pune Apune Aparimita Pune Aparimita Pune Jnana Sambharo Vajite Om Sarava Samkara Parishuddhi Dharmate Gagana Samangate Sobhavati Shuddhi Mahanaya Parivari Soha Om Namo Bhagavate Aparimita Ayujan Subhine Cita Te Zorajaya Tatagataya Arahate Samya Sambuddhaya Te Yata Ampune Pune Mahabune Aparimita Pune Aparimita Pune Jnana Sambharo Vajite Om Sarava Samkara Parishuddhi Dharmate Gagana Samangati Sobhavati Shuddhi Mahanaya Parivari Soha. Now, Medicine Buddha's prayers, mantras, there's a long mantra and short mantra. Both you recite 7 times each. Therefore, you visualize that from your heart radiate light. This light go to the pure land of the Medicine Buddha, then dissolve to the Medicine Buddha's heart. Then Medicine Buddha, remember, he is true of great aspiration. With his love and compassion, that nectar flow from his begging bowl. This nectar go into your crown and the body, and all the sentient beings' crown and the body. Purify all the sickness and the cause of the sickness. They fill up the body. They imagine that you receive Medicine Buddha's body, speech, mind blessings. Then you imagine that we are free from the sickness and the cause of the sickness. Om Namo Bhagavate Bhikkhanse Guru Pendraya Prabharajaya Tatagataya Arahate Samya Sambuddhaya Te Yata Om Bhikkhanse Bhikkhanse samya sambuddhaya te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate so om namo bhagavate bekanje guru bendraya prabharajaya tathāgataya arahate samya sambuddhaya te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha om namo bhagavate bekanje guru bendraya prabharajaya tathāgataya arahate samya sambuddhaya te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha om namo bhagavate bekanje guru bendraya prabharajaya tathāgataya arahate samya sambuddhaya te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha om namo bhagavate bekanje guru bendraya prabharajaya tathāgataya arahate samya sambuddhaya te yata om bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha te yata om bekanje bekanje maha bekanje raja samongate soha. Now visualize the Padmashavari deity in front of you. She is one of the 21 Taras emanation. Visualize that nectar flow from her body and go into your crown in the body that purify all the sickness and the cause of the sickness, and purify all the obscurations, all the negative energies, all purify. Om Pishate Paranashavari Sarvantola Prashamani Sava Om Pishate Paranashavari Sarvantola Prashamani Sava Om Pishate Paranashavari Saravajora Prashamani Sava Om Pishate Pranashavari Saravajora Prashamani Soha Om Pishate Pranashavari Saravajora Prashamani Sava Om visualize the Doji Nam Varjoma in front of you. The nectar flow from his body, going to your crown in the body, that purify all the sickness and the cause of the sickness, and all the obscurations, and especially the negative energies are all purified. Nama Janda Benza Kroda Holo Holo Tista Tita Benda Benda Hana Hana Aimi Te Humbe Nama Janda Benza Kroda Holo Holo Tita Tita Benda Benda Hana Hana Amite Humbe Nama Jenda Benza Prodaya Holo Holo Tita Testa Benda Benda Hana Hana Amite Humbe Nama Jenda Benza Prodaya Holo Holo Tita Tita Benda Benda Amrite Humbe Nama Benza Prodaya Holo Holo Tita Tita Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humbe Nama Benza Prodaya Holo Holo Tita Tita Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humbe Nama Jenda Benza Prodaya Holo Holo Tita Tita Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humbe Nama Benza Prodaya Holo Holo Tita Tita Benda Benda Hana Hana Amrite Humbe. Now visualize the two magic deity in front of you. The nectar flow from his body, going the crown and your body, that purify all the sickness and the cause of the sickness, and all the obscurations, especially negative energies are all purified. Om Bhurkum Maha Brahmanaye Brute Bhugi Male Ojo Ma Kroda Humbe Om Bhurkum Maha Brahmanaye Brukum Bhugi Bimale Ojo Ma Kroda Humbe Om Bhurkum Maha Brahmanaye Bruji Bhugi Bimale Ojo Ma Kroda Humbe Om Bhurkum Maha Brahmanaye Bruji Bhugi Bimale Ojo Ma Krodaya Humbe Om Bhurkum Maha Brahmanaye Bruji Bhugi Bimale Ojo Ma Kroda Humbe Om Bhurkum Maha Brahmanaye Bruji Bhugi Bimale Ojo Ma Kroda Humbe Om Bhurkum Maha Brahmanaye Bruji Bhugi Bimale Ojo Ma Kroda Humbe. Now you visualize that in front of you in the sky, 8 medicine Buddha, and surrounded by 16 bodhisattvas, then countless of medicine deities. With your devotion and faith that we request deities to give us the blessing and purifications. We recite mantra 108 times. Ranza samanga de so wa sim je ne ba ji ne ba ya do ne le da cha zhe we ne ne ma le ba da do e ju wa e me bro ra e shu. When we do the aspiration prayers, that time you must think of the meaning of the phrase. Sem je ye min de ve ne nama yin je de kan so jo wa ma ju ji je ta she me che be se ja je je la so cho ne ge do nga je ye ba je de gan so jo wa ma ju ji che dai shi ji kai na zi ba da ni ge mi za ma de be da ji be ni ji ba da be rim sa ge li ji ge la ne be ge re don da ji ai jo dang lo bra yen do sang ja do jo dang xi jia zai xi ne la so ba yi li jie ge la se wa ma ju ru ji li sen de wa ma li tu ji bi jun xi tu bi du ma lai ji ni ba ma li xi xi da do de ba dang ci ri ne mi de ji de ba rai shu la ma guan jo sun ge du ji dang kan du ji zhong sun mi ni du dang len de lo wa me be de do ji ngo wa mo la ta zi du ba ra shu e ma ho ngon tra san je na wa ta da ye so jo tu je chen bo dang yan do san ba ye tu je do na la san je chan se pa me ko je pro Teje Wansara Pado Me Paye Dewa Jenji Javi Ashingande Bane Dene Sebe Jamanda Kewa Shinji Brahma Jibairo Tero Jene Nande Sheto Shoy Dige Dage Melai Tabadi Chojo Sanje Johnson Tamji Kimi Dobran Jingi Lato Deya Dai Benza Deya Awa Boda Naye So Chode Jawa Seje Gong Chonyi Zolai Jera Tage Design Gesabai Panjo Sonlai Jebai Jave Tembai Pegro Jingi Wazenji Kenamu Toke Sanje Tojiro Kiza Tamji Chede Tashen Jilai Minjuro Chedinye Dane Zozo Tere Neme Nyanto Be Sede Sajo Nanjoji Namshe Sepe Juroman Tai Dewa Jendo Jiroji Tene Beme Kaje De La Sanjicho Janjava Tame Jise Do Tobe Do Now do dedication. Senande ye time jinse bani tome ye be tai nai banjini ke ga nai ji ba la do ba ai Sebe sole do wa do I show. Thank you.